Sometimes dead is better.
Greetings, my fellow ghosts and demons. I'm Tom, and welcome to Monster Gab, where we love to talk about classic and vintage horror. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about Pet Sematary from 1989. Why? Well, first of all, it was a request from a very good friend of mine, Hayley. Hi, Hayley. How you doing? A nice little shout out there for you. I hope you're well. Thank you so much for this request. But secondly, the film is considered to be quite a classic. It's got a huge fan base and was very popular during its release. Why not talk about it? So the movie is based on the novel by Stephen King, who quotes it's the only novel he's written that genuinely scared him. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, it's just what I've read online. Stephen King also plays a cameo role in the film too. Now, like I said, the film is considered to be quite a classic, especially amongst its many fans, despite the fact that it actually got mixed reviews from critics during its release in 1989. However, they still felt the need to remake it in 2019. Personally, I find it a bit unnecessary, but then again, I haven't seen the remake, I can't compare it. Today, we're talking about the original release. The movie stars Dale Midkiff, Fred Gwynne, Denise Crosby, Blaise Berdal and Miko Hughes, and it was also directed by Mary Lambert. Apparently, this film was Mary Lambert's second feature film as director. So here is the synopsis. Dr. Lewis Creed, played by Dale Midkiff, moves his family into their new country home, with wife Rachel, played by Denise Crosby, daughter Ellie, played by Blaise Berdal, and son Gage, played by Miko Hughes, along with their cat Church. Right on the doorstep of their new home is a very busy and dangerous road, responsible for the death of many pets, animals and creatures alike. Just beyond the road is their new neighbour Judd, played by the immortal Fred Gwynne. And beside the road is a footpath that leads to a very domestic looking cemetery, made especially by the many children over the years as a final resting place for their beloved pets. After settling in, a case of history repeats itself when Church, the Creed family pet cat, is killed by a speeding vehicle on the road outside of their home. Neighbour Judd takes Lewis beyond the pet cemetery to an ancient Indian burial ground, which is known for bringing the dead back to life. After burying him in the soil, Church the cat miraculously comes back to life, only he's not quite himself. It appears that the soil at the burial ground is sour, and anything buried there will only return as an evil being. What does this mean for the Creed family? Well, there's a saying, sometimes dead is better. Or with a bit more emphasis, sometimes dead is better. Right, let's talk about this movie then, because there is a lot that I left out of that synopsis due to the fact that I don't really want to give away any spoilers. But there is more to the movie than just an ancient burial ground and an evil cat. The movie really does kind of focus on the subject of death, and it's quite an important factor to this film also. For instance, the character Rachel has a backstory where when she was a child she had to look after her terminally ill sister, and this is kind of repeated throughout the movie just to kind of show the trauma that she went through, because of course with her sister being terminally ill she did die and she feels responsible for that. As well as that, we see the family nanny, Missy, is suffering with stomach cancer and she too is terminally ill. We also see a jogger meet with a fateful end as he's hit by a lorry, the cat Church, which I mentioned previously. Judd had a childhood pet called Spot, who was a dog, and he mentions how he passed on. And as well as that, there's also a backstory of a war hero who passed away. Basically, there is a lot of death surrounding this film. So as I said, there is more to this story than just an evil cat coming back from the dead and raining havoc. The film really does demonstrate how people deal with death and how it affects our emotions. The moral of the story is that death is inevitable and everyone has to process it in their own way. And that's actually what makes the film interesting, because we all do have to deal with death in some way or another, and we all have to process it in our own way. But it's interesting to see how someone else might deal with it, especially if they do have the ability to, say, bring something back to life. For instance, if you had that ability, would you do it? And, what if there were consequences? Would you still do it? As far as the character's concerned, the only one that really stands out to me is the character of Judd, played by Fred Gwynne, who lives beyond that dangerous road. It might just be me, but I just kind of find him a very welcoming and friendly elderly neighbour. The ideal neighbour for anyone, I suppose. On a warm evening, he likes to sit on his porch and drink a few beers, and if you happen to be passing by, he'll invite you to join him. That kind of thing. I don't know what it is. It's nothing to do with the film, I suppose. I just really like his character. As the movie goes along, he seems to be more than just a neighbour. He's a true friend to the family. If anything, I would say he was a family member. He's just a really nice, friendly guy. I know he's only a character, but I just really like him. As far as the acting is concerned, it's mostly fine. There are a couple of hammy moments, if I'm totally honest with you, but mostly it's fine. Like I said, I love the character of Judd, and I think Fred Gwynne plays a brilliant part, and for me, he's the best part of this film as far as the characters are concerned. There is a character called Victor Pascow, who is the jogger that I mentioned earlier, who was killed by a lorry, and he comes back as a ghost. Now when he plays the part of a ghost, I just kind of feel that he's a bit too dramatic at times, and other times it's almost like he's playing a comedy role, but he's just not funny. I don't think he's intended to be funny, but I don't know, there's just something about it doesn't work for me. There's also the part of Zelda when we see the flashbacks of Rachel's terminally ill sister. And Zelda is played by a man, and the reason for that is they tried to make her look as hideous as possible. Just to add to the scare factor, I should have written down who plays her actually. I don't know, I'll put it on the screen or something. Again, I don't find it particularly scary, I just find it a little bit hammy, but that might be due to the fact that the film has kind of aged a bit now, I don't know. But that didn't really do it for me either. Overall though, the acting is fine. It's not Oscar worthy, no one's going to win any awards, but it's fine. They sell the story to me. Now, from what I've read online, the part of Lewis Creed, who is played by Dale Midkiff, was originally meant to be played by Bruce Campbell, and I could totally imagine him playing this role as well. In fact, I think he'd do it quite well. Not that I have any issue with Dale Midkiff, I think he does a fine performance in this position, but it's still interesting to think that it could have been Bruce Campbell. As well as all that, the original choice for director was meant to be George A. Romero, but from what I've researched, the filming got delayed and he pulled out, which is why Mary Lambert stepped in. Now, Mary Lambert only directed one other film before this one, but if you ask me, I think she does quite a good job. For instance, the cinematography in this film is fine. Nothing really kind of jumps out to me, but there's nothing wrong with it. It's totally fine. There is one particular scene that I quite like where we see some kind of aerial shots of the ancient burial ground, and I think that's done quite well. Otherwise, it ticks enough boxes and does the job. The title, Pet Sematary, to me seems a little bit benign. At least it does as far as the movie's concerned. I haven't read the book, but the story in the movie doesn't really have a lot to do with the cemetery either. Yes, they want to emphasize that animals get killed on the side of the road, and the family pet also meets that same fate, but it doesn't get buried there. There's only kind of one small scene where we get like a guided tour. When the family first move in, Judd feels it's necessary to show them the cemetery and give them a tour, and that's pretty much the only time that this cemetery really has a moment in this movie. However, when we do see the cemetery, it's quite whimsical. In no way does it feel eerie, or at least it doesn't to me. I don't know if that's what they're trying to portray, but the way I see it is the cemetery was built by children who absolutely loved and adored their pets, because, you know, anyone that owns a pet and you know, loves their pet knows how much joy that these creatures bring to us, and it's a sad moment when they go, and some of us have to experience that when we're children. And you know, when you see this kind of, you know, graveyard that's built by children, and even the word cemetery is spelt wrong because, you know, there's something whimsical about it, and by no means is it scary. I don't know, seeing something like this is quite a nice little gesture, because I've never seen a pet cemetery myself, but the idea of one is quite a wonderful idea. I don't know if that's what they were trying to portray. I mean, there are parts of it where you kind of feel like they were trying to make it look scary, and it is meant to be a horror film. I don't know, I like it. I like the way it looks. I like the way it makes me feel. I think it's a great part of the film, despite the fact that it is very minute and doesn't really have anything else to do with the story. While we're on the topic of the story, I would probably say that although I haven't read the book, it's typical Stephen King. I haven't read many of his novels. I've read one or two, but there's definitely an essence to all of his stories. And when you see film adaptations or screen adaptations of his stories, they definitely kind of have this Stephen King essence, and this has it also. Now, what I will say is, and I enjoyed the film, I really did. You get the feeling that this kind of story would probably work better in text, and although, like I said, I haven't read the book, I get the impression that the book is probably better than the film. Not trying to knock the film in any way, I really did enjoy it, but there is just something about the story that, I don't know, there's kind of a hamminess to it. Then again, I do feel that a lot with Stephen King films anyway. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not a critic, you know, I'm just a guy, I'm just a YouTuber, okay? I'm just giving you my opinion. Okay, I've been trying to word this in my head because, again, I don't want to give away any spoilers, so I'm going to be careful how I say this. There is a incredible, powerful and dramatic scene in this movie, and for those of you who have seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about, especially if I put this picture on the screen, but you don't need that. It's a horrendous moment in the story, but it really does, it's very, very gripping, and if you don't know that it's coming, I didn't when I watched the film, it hits you hard. Yeah, I don't know how, I can't really say anything about it, you just need to see it, but there is a moment in this film that is just mind-blowingly powerful. So yes, this is a horror film. Is it gory? Yeah, it is in parts actually. There's not a lot of it, but there's enough there if you're squeamish. There's one particular moment that really kind of made me gag a little bit. But yeah, it's pretty gory in parts, and to be fair, the special effects are pretty good also. Some of them might not have aged particularly well, but you know, the film's like over 30 years old now. But mostly it still stands up, it looks pretty good. As for the music in this film, well, it has got a running score through it, which does the job, it's fine, but it's also got a soundtrack by the Ramones, which is great in my book because I'm a massive fan of the Ramones. I love punk rock anyway, and yeah, okay, there's only a couple of tunes by them. One of them is an original song for the film, which is called Pet Sematary, plays during the credits, but it's also got the song Sheena is a Punk Rocker within the film too, which I just love. As far as I'm concerned, that just adds extra value to the movie. Again, this is only due to research, I don't know if it's true, but Stephen King was actually a fan of the Ramones also, and apparently Mary Lambert, who directed the movie, knew the Ramones, so it kind of just made sense to get them on board onto the soundtrack of the film. I mean, I can't quote that as true, but that's what I've read online. I don't know what I'm doing, I just like talking about horror movies, okay? Right, let's talk about the pros and cons then. Well, first of all, the special effects still look great and they still hold up, apart from one or two. Like I said, the film's quite old now. There's a couple of ghost scenes that haven't aged particularly well, and whatever. It's tolerable, it's absolutely fine. The makeup is done really well also, you know, with all the gore and, you know, the blood and stuff like that. As far as I'm concerned, it's a total pro. The film is immensely dramatic, and I do mean dramatic as well. Like I said, there is a key moment in the film that I can't really talk about, but that adds extra drama to the movie. It really is gripping, and it does make you want to follow it and see what the outcome is. And one final pro for me, I keep banging on about him, but Fred Gwynne is just brilliant. I don't know, I just love his character in this movie. The character of Judd is perfect. Love him. Great. Okay, the cons of the movie for me are the little elements of corniness. Now, I know with horror films we do get these corny moments, but I feel there's just one too many in this film, and I believe it dilutes it from becoming a true horror masterpiece. Just my opinion. Especially with, you know, Victor Pascal, the ghost character in the film. There are just moments where it doesn't do it for me, and I really do feel like it dilutes the movie. And the character of Zelda as well. I know some people are really going to disagree with me on this and say no, they found her terrifying, but I just found her really ridiculous in parts. And maybe it's because the film is aged now, I don't know. If I'd have watched it, you know, when I was a child, it probably would have scared the living daylights out of me. Only little moments like that. And on top of that, I would probably say on the con list are just those moments of acting as well. I loved Fred Gwynne. I know I keep going on about him. And the acting in general is fine. But Zelda, Victor Pascal, I don't know, their acting for me, it doesn't fit the story or doesn't go with the film. The final con for me is, I don't want to say the story because I like the story and I love the film as well. I'm not knocking the film. I just kind of feel like it would suit a piece of literature better. I mean, that's how it originally was anyway. You know, it was a novel. But you kind of feel the way it goes and the way the story kind of pans out, I could picture it better if I was reading it. I haven't read it and I can't compare it to the book. But I just get the impression that if I was to read the book, I'm going to say that the book is better. I don't know. It's just the way I feel. You don't have to share that opinion, but there we go. So, do I recommend this movie? Well, yeah, of course I do. It's an absolute classic. I mean, this film had a huge impact when it came out, which is why I'm immensely surprised that they felt the need to remake it, because if you're going to see any adaptation of this film, it's got to be the original if you haven't seen it. Now, I'm not saying that you will like it, that people have got mixed opinions of this film. Some people think it's trash, and some people love it. You know, it's just the way it is, but you've got to develop your own opinion. Don't listen to anyone else. Don't listen to me. Just watch the film. I think it's just something you have to tick off your list and say that you have seen it, and then if you do like it or not, doesn't matter. You've seen what is an iconic gem. Personally, I think it's a great film. I don't think it's a masterpiece or anything like that, which is why if I'm going to score it out of 10, I'm going to give it... I'm going to give it 6.8 out of 10. Yeah, whatever, this is my channel, do what I want. Yeah, I don't think it's a true 7, but I don't think 6 or 6.5 is truly fair either. Yeah, 6.8 out of 10. That's how I'm going to score it. Now, the movie did get a sequel in 1992, and if I'm totally honest with you, that film just doesn't do it for me at all. I didn't like it, but that's my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. And while you're at it, guys, if you are talking to me in the comment section, what do you think of this film? Have you seen it? Is it one of your favorites? Did you not like it? Did you like the remake? Is it worth watching? Let me know in the comment section, guys. Are there any major points that I've missed out that you think that I should have added in here? Did I get anything wrong? Let me know. Talk to me. I really do want to hear from you. And until next time, I don't know who they are, but if you don't subscribe, they will get you. So make sure you subscribe, click that notification bell, like my video if you did indeed like it, and like I said, leave a comment down there. I really do want to hear from you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.